Hello. In this video we're going to take a look at the 7hz Legato. Obviously it's a dual dynamic driver. It's 26 ohm, 108 dB sensitivity at 1 volt, THD less than 1% at 1 kilohertz. Don't know how they're measuring that. Alright, pardon the voice, I've been sick past couple days. I've had this, I guess, about a week at this point. As you can see, this is the box it comes in. Inside the box, you get one of these 7hz cases. This is very similar to the one you get with the Dioko. As you can see here, I don't know how well this will hold up over time. I don't even remember how long I had this at the moment, but as you can see, like, it's starting to separate. You can push it back down, but by the time you look at it, when you pick it up next, that'll be lifted back up again. So it kind of is what it is with that. I imagine this one will have the same problem. It kind of feels exactly the same. I guess if there was, no, not even that's different. I guess the only difference is with the zipper at the top, this opens. When this zipper's at the bottom, on this one, this opens. Alright, anyway, so we're at the 7hz Legato. Outside that, you get the case. Inside the case, you get your IM. It'll have tips on it. Get this cable. It claims to be a silver plated cable. I don't know. At this point, I don't believe any of these budget IMs actually have silver plated cables. They're all doing stuff that doesn't make sense with things that are silver plated. I mean, even if you look in there, you see two of these strands are made out of that like the red and blue or red and green coated wire, like the stuff that has that enamel or oxide or whatever on it, like the regular earbuds, the cheapos. Two of these have a little red and green in it, and then the other two look like they could be silver plated, but I mean, why would you have the negative of each channel not silver plated, or the neutral of each channel not silver plated, and then the positive silver plated? I don't know, doesn't make sense. But anyway, besides the fact, it's a good cable, it's nice. I do actually like the 7hz one better. I mean, they're virtually identical. Like, this one actually feels like the wire inside, like the actual copper, is thicker in this than it is in this. This just seems like a better cable, even though they measure pretty much identical. I mean, what difference I did see could very well be just the error of my little meter, because it's not the most accurate. But regardless, not for sound or anything, just for looks, I like this one better. At least with the Legato, and I kind of prefer the looks of this better with the Dioko. But anyway, here is the Legato. Relatively plain. You see, just silver. Big old chunky boys. See if you can see that there. Legato. Alright. And it's the normal 2-pin connector. I'm using big old fat bore tips. I'm a fan of the fat bores myself. Short stent, like really short back here, and a wide bore I kind of like on a lot of stuff. Anyway, these are all metal. I don't know. Compared to something like the EA500, these feel very, to me, they feel cheap. They don't feel like there was much effort put into it. It just seems like a bunch of die-cast parts stuck together, which is pretty much exactly what it is, but it just doesn't feel or look as elegant as something like the EA 500 does. Let me right off the bat, like thumb fingerprints all over it, but nice and smooth. I mean, there is still that seam there, but everything's fitted nice, everything matches. Whereas with these, you kind of have a different texture on this part than you do on this part. And then there's even like this tiny little lip here for this cap, which is obviously this one's a different texture because it's meant to be different. But like at first, I thought this was just machine, like supposed to be part of this, but it's not. It's actually 3 separate parts there. I don't know, whatever, works fine. They do stick out of your ears a lot. Like, they're even worse than the Dioko. I don't know if you see the front there, but it has the same little grill there as the Dioko. See if you can see that. This is the Dioko here. But yeah, the same, and they're actually very similar in size. However, when it comes to just the way they feel, the Dioko feels like a much better built product. It feels much more sturdy. You see those big vents there. Same 3 vents on the Dioko. It's almost impossible to see, but alright. Now on the Dioko, I'm using, I don't know, what are they, I don't remember the name of them, but really big old fat wide bores here. I really like the way they sound. I did try these on the Legato. It kind of almost added a hint of sibilance, made it vocals a little edgy at the end, at least. Alright, let me try to get organized here. So what you get, obviously, IEM's cable, get this box. You'll get some replacement filters and the grills there. Hopefully you won't need them. I don't know. They sell them on Amazon. I think it's like $9 and you get a pack of 9 or 10 of them. And then you get a whole bunch of tips. You get, what is it? 4 different sizes of these clear ones, which is these here. For some reason with tips, I always end up using the biggest ones. And I like these. These do sound good. However, they also have a more narrow bore with these kind of like blue-black ones. I guess they're more blue than black, but a little more of a narrow bore when compared to these. And I just didn't like the way it sounded. I don't know, that made the treble and the mids a little too much for me. What I ended up using was, I don't even know where I got these tips from. I've had these tips forever, but they're big, they're really nice and soft. They kind of feel a lot like these stock ones, except maybe a touch thicker and maybe a little more smoother. However, you can see the bore there is just massive. It doesn't really hide anything. And for me, what that does kind of smooths out some of the issues that I have with the Legato, with the exception of one. Alright, before I go any further, I would like to just basically say, you have to like stupid. If you like stupid, continue watching and we'll talk about the Legato. If you don't like stupid, then chances are you're not going to like these. You should move on, look at something like the EA 500, if this is the price range you're going for. And basically, you'll be happy. These aren't for you if you don't like stupid. Like right off the bat, you. I thought I was a bass head. I really did for a long time, and then I started reading reviews, and maybe I'm more towards a neutral bass, but I want quality bass. I don't know. I still consider myself a bass head. Like, what is it? I would like to see something like the A500 have more bass. Like, it has plenty of bass there, but I would like more T3 Plus. Some people consider that bassy, but I would like to have something with a little more than the T3 Plus, a little more warmth than the T3 Plus. So going down that route, and I know what I like in headphones. Okay, more similar to a bass head than similar to a treble head. However, the bass in these is just ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. If you're listening to music that already has a boosted bass, like, you're gonna feel everything in your head just rumble. Now, the bass is quality bass. It's incredibly impactful. It's shocking how much impact an IEM can have. Like, the what is it, the Celeste with that square driver, you get a good amp on that, boost the bass, and that thing really can hit hard and have really good. I don't have an IEM. It doesn't matter how much I boost it in an EQ that can really do bass like these can. These are bass head IEMs. It's absolutely absurd how much bass is in these. Like, I'm hearing like sub bass and in songs that I didn't even realize there was bass happening at that moment. Like, there's a lot of songs that I listen to in IEMs that I don't listen to in headphones, only for the simple fact that when I use headphones, I tend to be more in a relaxing situation, and so the music generally fits the mood. IEMs, I'm kind of trying to do stuff and whatever, and I'm looking for, most of the time, a little more excitement. And it's just insane with these. Like, these are picking up bass and sub bass that headphones of mine, quite a few of my headphones of mine aren't picking up. Like, it's absolutely absurd the amount that's here. It's a massive amount. I can't stress it enough how much bass these have. Like, you can tame it down a little bit, but so far every tip I tried that tames the bass down a little bit kind of makes these unpleasant. Now, still talking about the bass, there's tons of it, but it's actually a nice, detailed, quality bass. It's in IEMs. I've said it in a previous video, probably all the previous videos. I don't own any high-end IEMs. The OH10 was probably the most expensive. Yeah, I did own the Timeless at the time, but replaced it with the Diogo. But so they're like the two most expensive IEMs I've owned. Everything else is kind of along this price range. The bass in this, as far as quality wise, is among the best of everything I have. It's incredibly detailed, incredibly impactful. It's not even, there's not even a hint of one-noteness that you get with other stuff. It's a very good, enjoyable bass. However, the mids, like, it's almost, coincidentally, the mids vocals almost had the nasally sound that I have now. It's weird. It's almost like there's a cloth between the singer and the microphone. So you kind of, I don't want to say you lose the detail, but there's like almost literally a veil between you and the vocals. There's just something smooth about it, despite retaining the nuances of somebody changing their voice and like all the cracks and stuff. Like you still hear it all. It's weird. It's almost like certain parts is kind of smooth over. Women, men, I don't know. As far as male vocals, I really enjoy them. I find them very natural sounding, full bodied, engrossing, like quality. Very clean too. But female vocals kind of have more of that veiled nasally. It's not so much nasally. It's almost like they have a slight congestion. It's not too much to where it ruins everything, but it's there, and especially going something like the EA 500, which is a crisp, clean sound. You really notice the I don't know the veil of the vocals. Like female vocals kind of lose some of the I don't want to say sexiness in a way, like kind of the bite, the emotion. In a way, like it's a different kind. It's more of a full-bodied, powerful sound instead of an emotional breaking sound. It's very hard for me to articulate it, especially currently where I'm a little lost. But those are kind of like my only two gripes with this. Like the bass is excessive in my opinion. It's quality bass, but excessive, and it's the tuning because it goes so deep into their mids. It kind of takes away some of the potential these had. Like these were the EA 500 seems like it was almost perfectly tuned to get the best out of that driver, whereas these kind of seemed like they were more tuned just for big, thick, powerful, sneaky bass. Now, there is something I've noticed it with all the tips, less so with these. Like tip changing will help, and it does seem to greatly impact the sound of these, like it does many IMs for me. But there's something going on. I don't know. I don't know if it's between like 3 and 5K or like 5 and 7K. There's something in the upper mids, maybe lower treble. There's something peaky in there that kind of gets fatiguing. It gets a little annoying. It's much less so with these big, thick, wide bore tips, but there's definitely something aggressive going on in the upper mids with these. It's not this perfectly warm, fun set. Like it's almost like they tried to add that sharp edge that from the female vocals, like I was talking about, except they kind of missed a little bit, and instead of just adding that nice sharp gritty edge to some of the female vocal stuff, it's adding this peak that kind of pierces and resonates in your head. It's I'm making it sound worse than it is, be fair. Like it's not I can completely imagine there's probably a lot of people that aren't even going to hear that. It's just something that I'm kind of sensitive to, especially on certain days. Like there are certain days where some stuff will just give me fatigue, when other days I find that same thing perfectly well balanced and I can listen to it all day without issue. But compared to the stuff I have up here, there is something going on in that area. It's These are not perfect. These are kind of you gotta know what you're getting into, but they're a wonderful experience. Now, moving on to the treble's actually pretty crisp and clean. It's just, I'm surprised. I expected it to be more reserved than it is. There's actually quite a bit of information going on there, a lot of detail, and it seems nicely extended from what I'm hearing. There's nothing crazy going on up there. It's it's pleasant. There's nothing I can complain about. The sound stage of these were pretty good. They're not as wide as the Dioko, but I'd probably say they're about as wide. I don't know. They're kind of about as wide as the EA 500 and the Star River. So this is what I'm going to do. These are kind of what I'm comparing the Legato to. I had the Thruthear Zeros, dual driver dynamic. I have the, what is this? The Tri-Star River, a dual dynamic set. The Dioko really isn't here for comparison, even though it should be, because it's roughly the same price, but it's more of a build and size comparison. But this is kind of the stuff that I think this is competing against. Now this is price range here. Now if we're talking out of these four, soundstage, we're probably, these three are very similar as far as the width and soundstage. This one has the smallest soundstage, the Thruthear Zero. As far as separation, this might have the best separation. Yeah, I take that back. The Legato and the A500 are probably tied for separation. The Star River surprisingly is not that far behind in separation compared to you, so it's shockingly close. And then the Thruthear Zero is pretty good, but it's definitely the the worst of the group. It's falling behind there. Layering. This is another thing that kind of surprised me. And the Thruthear Zero is relatively flat. The EA 500, while not as flat as the Thruthear Zero, isn't exactly a holographic 3D experience. Everything's crisp, clean, separated, but there isn't much as far as layering, elevation, and all. It's not really getting close to that 3D experience. I'm actually getting closer to the 3D experience with the Star River, and even better than the Star River, this Legato. The layering, and it's not just, it could have a guitar here, and then you'd hear like a snare or something going on a little bit behind it, but you're going to hear stuff in front, something behind that, and then you might even hear something behind that, but up and off to an angle. It's not completely like, I've heard stuff that gives you that 3D experience, and it's amazing. These aren't quite there, but compared to these, it's the closest. Let's see, resolution. This is kind of a tough one for me, because I've seen a lot of people basically trashing the Star River for its resolution, and I'm sorry, maybe it's just working like this in my ears, but for me, the Star River is far more resolving than the Thruthear Zero. And it's not just a tuning thing. It's definitely not just an apparent resolution. Like there's actual details that I can hear on this that I cannot hear on that. The EA 500 better than the Star River, and this is where the whole apparent resolution thing kind of throws a wrench in everything, because it sounds like the EA 500 is more resolving than the Legato, but every time I listen closely and I really pay attention, I start swapping back and forth, I almost start leaning towards the Legato being the more resolving of the two. It's just there's times where the bass again is just too much, and it's not that it's bleeding into stuff, it's just covering stuff. Like it's pulling your focus away from what you're trying to listen to. Like the bass hits so hard and is so loud that if you're just trying to listen to this little violin or something going on in the background, or this little snare, and you want to hear how it, how the leading edge is, if it's smooth over, if it's sharp, what the decay is, you're trying to as soon as the bass hits, you kind of lose focus and you really can't pay attention. You don't have that problem with the A500. Everything is just crisp and clean at all times. But when you really put in the effort and start focusing, you're noticing, you're hearing, even you're hearing pitch changes that you might not have picked up on before. Little rough patches, or just a tonal change in someone's voice that might have been too quick to notice on this, or just not a big enough change for some of these to pick up. It was as far as the detail, I'm rather impressed with these. For $100, I mean, after listening to the EA 500, I was kind of hoping that would be the type of quality I'd be getting, and I'm not. To be fair, I'm not disappointed. It's very close, if not surpassing it as far as resolution. It's just the problem of the bass kind of drowning everything out. Again, it's not bleed, it's not distorting anything, it's not kind of clumping things together. Everything's still wonderfully separated, detailed in its own space. It's almost like you kind of got to hear it to believe it type thing with the bass. The bass is just so darn loud that, yeah, it kind of, no matter how hard you try, it almost shocks you into not paying attention to the other stuff you want to. As far as vocals, this is a kind of a tough one. This one, the Thruthear Zero overall, for me, is a relatively balanced sound. It's kind of dry, a little bit grainy, and again, it's that I'm saying grainy, but I really don't find it to be a grainy IM. It's just compared to these, but there's not too much detail, plenty enough. Like if this is the only IM you had, or if you're coming from some of the other stuff like the Celeste, what else? We'll see, whatever. Other stuff in that price range, it's kind of competitive as far as stuff that came out before it anyway. Nothing I can really complain about. Everything's kind of engaging, but again, it's just kind of dry, a little bit grainy. Nothing, not as natural as the rest of these in a sense. It's almost boring. To be fair, there's nothing special going on with it. It's kind of boring. You move on to the Star River, and it's a slightly thinner sound, a little thinner in the vocals and stuff, but they're smoother, and I don't mean smooth like less grain. That's the smoothness I'm talking about. They're more edgy. There's more bite to the vocals, more power. Again, they are a little thinner, but it's almost like it's almost like quality difference. Like, okay, it's a better quality, just technically better, but tonally inferior in a sense. But that thinness isn't so much that it takes away from anything. It's just a little less body. You get used to it after listening to a while. But there's a quality to it. You can really get sucked into music. It's very nice in my opinion. The A500 is, as far as in the vocal area, kind of closer to this. It's again crisp, clean sound, except it doesn't have as much that edge that this has. It doesn't have that bite. Like, it gets close, whereas with these, okay, so I maybe you can some people you could get a little fatigued by it. I personally don't, which is weird because I generally don't like that kind of stuff. There's a lot of stuff I like that I find too bright. Like for instance, the original Alina, that was a little much for me. It was right at that point where, and so I'm kind of surprised I'm not as bothered by these. So this is just very similar, just a touch more body in the vocals, but still going for that crisp, clean, detailed sound, except this does it better. More clean, more detailed, more natural sounding. And then there's this. You got that veil, a little bit of stuffiness to stuff. And there's, I hate saying a little bit of stuffiness to stuff because it makes it sound terrible. It's just a slight, in comparison to these, which are all relatively thin, clean, resolving vocals. This is more smooth, natural ish, full bodied vocals. But even with that veil and some of those rounded edges, like, the detail is impressive. There does seem to be an area for males with really deep voices where it almost seems to kind of lose some of the technicality. I could be mistaken, so don't take my word on that part because I haven't experimented with too many tracks with deep male vocals, like really deep bassy vocals. But from what I did here, it does seem like, I don't know if that's like where this crossover action starts happening, but there does seem to be a point where it almost gets a little too, I don't want to say muddy because it doesn't get muddy, but it's it's not as elegant. It's not even elegant. It's not as just effortless, clean sounding as it is above that. Like, just a very rare case. It was one song. I don't even remember what song it was. It was just this guy. He's not even the main singer either. Somebody featured on it, had a really deep voice, and there was just some things that just sounded a little off to me, especially like compared to these and what I'd expect. But overall, ignore that. Overall, the male vocals are fine, perfectly acceptable, like a little more body than usual, but personally, I kind of like it. It works really well with stuff like rap and what is the EDM. I didn't think it would work too great with rock, and like, I enjoyed it. However, it does change the experience. So I can imagine pure rock fans probably wouldn't like it. Female vocals, it depends what you're looking for. They're a little more husky in a sense, a little more deep. They don't have that sharp edge I talked about earlier. Like, out of all these female vocals, yeah, 500. Like, if you want something, what song is it? Let me look real quick. Yeah, I did. I actually took a few notes this time. All right. If you listen to stuff like, what is it, Alicia Keys, Gramercy Park, this, if you just want the vocals, you really want to feel the power of Alicia Keys' voice, the A500 is the winner up here. These probably have the Thruthear Zero, probably the most balanced, but slight grain, a little dry, just kind of flat, no real sound shade, just nothing special at all, just kind of plain and average sounding. Try Star River compared to, well, at least compared to this, these are more balanced, maybe not as much as those, but it's crisper and cleaner than these, more detailed than the Zero. Getting close to the A500, maybe not as much, but the layering and the separation of this just destroys the Thruthear Zero for this song. Like, you can really focus in on the vocals, and her voice kind of has that snap and this power to it that just sucks you in. That song is amazing with these. Now, this, again, we're going to start talking about this. Another clean, crisp sound, very similar to this, except doesn't have the edges, more separation between stuff. However, the layering has kind of less of that 3D effect, less layering than the Star River, which surprised me. However, but again, best details out of the group, with the exception, possibly, of the legato. Now, the legato with that song, I mean, I do like that song, especially with a lot of stuff. I kind of love it. But the legato, that there's this piano. The piano sounds great on the Star River. Sounds amazing on the EA500. It sounds like a piano on the Thruthear Zero. Can absolutely live with it. It's so bassy on these that it doesn't even sound like a piano anymore. It's kind of, you know, what else? Soundstage, really best actually in this song. Best soundstage of the bunch, best layering of the bunch. It actually probably has the best 3D experience of the bunch, but it's not how I want to hear that song. It's kind of somewhat of a letdown. Now, something like Big Boy Killjoy. Start with the A500. He's very tight, neutral tune bass, very clean sounding, but it's still vocal centric. They're the focus, and they do it the best out of this group. So if even with hip hop and if vocals are what you're more interested in, EA 500. They're the treble, detailed, controlled, nothing painful, good separation. Again, they don't really have too much of that 3D sound, kind of flat, expect like not compared to the Zero, but in this song it seems to kind of even lose out in that layering to the Star River. Now going from the A500 to the legato, the bass is explosive, monstrous. Like the rumble is just again absurd. It's stupid, and the detail on the bass is shockingly good. I'm really, really impressed with the quality it can do in the bass. I just wish there was a little less. To be fair, it's kind of crazy. Like, they had something great here, and instead of leaving it at 10, they cranked it up to 12 and kind of broke the dial a little bit. You do have a little bit of that stuffy nose sound in the vocals here, but it's not too much, not enough, definitely not enough to ruin that song. There is a spike in the upper mids. I did speak about it before with the legato that with the other tips kind of started bothering me. It was tamed enough with these tips towards which it didn't bother me, and it really wasn't much of an issue. In this song, the sound stage and separation were better than the EA 500. the bass again, too much rumble, a little too much. However, even though I thought it was too much, with all the rumbling and thumping going on, there was no noticeable distortion. It didn't actually bleed anything. It kind of covered stuff, but you could still, if you focus, you can still cleanly hear what it was covering. It didn't. It didn't just distort and drown out and blend in with anything else. Like these are kind of like what an experience like you got a nice subwoofer in your car and you got it cranked up. This is kind of the listening experience you get from the Legato. It's just and it's like the car system. You got your subwoofer, and then you didn't really upgrade your woofers, your mids, and your door panels, but you put some tweeters there. It's kind of almost what you got going on here. You can, at times, again, tips made a difference. I'm talking stock tips at the moment. You kind of get the tweeters in your door, but you didn't upgrade the 6x9s or whatever, and you got this subwoofer, and the trunk just slamming away, so you're getting a little bit of aggressive treble, this tremendous bass, and then your mids are a little kind of lacking. It's just better quality than that, but I don't know, they kind of different tuning, this exact setup, different tuning, amazing. As far as the Thruthear Zero, there's not much bass texture in that song. Similar type of punch to the Star River, the sound stage, small, so the group. I mean, it's fine, especially if you're not comparing it to these. It's perfectly acceptable. You wouldn't even be bothered by it. You didn't enjoy your experience. It's just when you hear the other stuff, you notice what these are lacking. Layering's not good. Separation is pretty good, but the worst of the group again. The vocals here sound closest to the Star River. The only difference is these don't have the edge that the Star River has, so it's less in your face, less edgy, less bite. A little bit of grain, but overall less aggressive. Even though that's not all that aggressive with these, it's less aggressive, more relaxing experience with the Zeros. Again, it's kind of boring. This video is way longer than I wanted it to be already. I'm going to cut it short. I'm probably going to end up having to do a second part to this one. Just for the simple fact there's so much I didn't talk about. And I want to do a more focused review. I've said this over and over again. But I actually want to with these. Like, I gotta find time to actually put a little effort to make a video about these, because this is going to be way too long. But we'll go with it how it is. So, to end this, if you like stupid and you don't need a daily, a general purpose IM, if you're fortunate enough where you can have IMs or gear for different use cases, sure, you don't mind spending $110 on something that you probably can't use for all of your music. If you accept that, I could recommend these. Like, they're good for what they are. They really are. Like, it's just, you gotta want bass when you're listening to them. There's no way around it. Sure, you could EQ them, and you can EQ the bass down or make them sound amazing, better than the EA500. But you can also EQ bass in the EA500, make them sound even more amazing and better than the EA500. So it's like stock for stock. They kind of, they kind of had, like, I don't even know if I've heard those Skull Candy stuff with this much bass. Like, the bass is absolutely, like, it really is stupid. It just happens to be a quality stupid. if you just want one IM and you want to try to get the best IM you can get within your budget, and that needs to be your only IM, that's what you gotta live with for a while. I cannot recommend anybody get these. I don't care if you are a bass head or not. Like, I can't imagine any bass head could do this much bass all the time. So again, the T3 Plus was something that I recommended to everybody I talked to looking for IMs and looking for a good affordable option. Now it's the EA500. That's what I keep recommending to everybody that are interested in IMs. Like, this could be your one IM. That could be the one. You wouldn't need anything else. Everything you listen to would sound good. But start wanting some fun, that's where the Legato steps in. Like, they can give you fun. They can give you just stupid bass. It's a quality sound. You just cannot forget the fact that these have a tremendous amount of bass. It's absolutely insane. And these, you're going to be spending $110 on IEMs that are probably going to make you tired of listening to them at some point. But they'll also give you great moments. I don't know. I'm not going to say I sit here and recommend, oh yeah, go out and buy these. You gotta know what you want. What I can say is, while I'm not sold on these being the next best thing in its price range, I can say the quality of the sound, as far as the technicalities and stuff, are easily within its price range, if not exceeding what its price range should be capable of. It's only let down by the tuning, in my opinion, by that extra bass, by the too much warmth in the mids, that little edginess going on somewhere in the upper mids, lower treble. Regardless of all that, these are very good IMs, very detailed, and a very enjoyable experience. Just not an everyday listen. And they're also huge. Like, these things are not the most comfortable. For some reason, these are far less comfortable than the Dioko. Like, I don't know. They don't even really touch your ear. Like, this part kind of just sits, and everything from this IM is held by just this right here. So unless you had, that's another reason why I like these tips. Like, a lot of the other tips, like just slight movements for breaking the seal and stuff. It was a whole thing. Anyway, let me stop. I'm going to keep going and going. It's like freaking 50 minutes, damn near an hour at this point. Anyway, if you guys made it this far, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. Please leave a thumbs up. Hell, subscribe. I might keep making more videos if I can ever figure out how to get them down to a more acceptable time frame. I'll probably end up doing a second video for this, a little more detailed and concentrated in time. Again, thanks for watching. Leave a thumbs up. Everybody have a good day.